Step 2 in creating strong boundaries in your marriage is to realize you're entitled to have a boundary. While the payoff for having a flimsy boundary might be nice some of the time, I'm guessing that you also have messy arguments other times. So let's look at how you can strengthen those boundaries. I'm going to use the example of my neighbors. My neighbors had a dog that was wild and was constantly in our yard. We didn't have a fence, but to make matters worse, that dog was chained up. And so I would try to untangle the dog to return him to his own yard, but because he was angry about being chained, he'd bite me. I was scared to walk from my car to the front door because of this wild dog. In our marriage, I became a wild dog because I didn't know exactly where my boundary was when it came to saving money. And although Dave would try to calm me down and say, reassure me, no, we'll have that savings account, sometimes I'd bark and bite at him. We needed to find a way to fence in the wild dog. When we built a fence between our neighbors and us, we were able to fence that dog onto his side of the fence, and he calmed down. Even sometimes when that dog was riled up, I was still able to walk from the car to my front door without being worried I was going to get bit. Let's look at how these boundaries work to fence in or fence out the wild dog in your relationship. In order to establish a boundary in your marriage, you'll need to decide if the problem you're facing requires fencing the wild dog in so it no longer is a prisoner of the chain, or if the problem requires fencing out the dog who keeps popping up in your yard, tangled and angry. In order to establish where the fences and boundaries need to be in your marriage, you first need to identify the wild dog behavior and fence that in, and identify the distractions and fence those out. In my marriage, I was the wild dog. I felt chained to balancing that checking account, but my husband made a larger salary, and sometimes when money issues would arise, I heard this voice inside my head, you don't have a right to that money because Dave earned it. Can you see how I'm the wild dog pulling and lunging on my chain? Because I don't know what my territory is. When we could fence in and agree on how money was going to be spent and saved, I felt safe and I didn't need to lunge and bark. On the other hand, David needed distractions to be fenced out. What happened in our marriage is that as soon as there was a conflict with money, I'd blame and shame, but I'd also come in and rescue the situation with my secret savings account. Dave had so many distractions, he couldn't see the exact problem. So we needed to fence out the distractions and let those consequences stay in the yard for Dave to see and solve on his own. Do you feel more like the chained dog, or do you need a fence to help you focus? Try this. Think about a disagreement you and your sweetheart have regularly. Now, keeping that disagreement in mind, answer the questions about the character of that conflict. I feel more A, helpless, or B, overwhelmed. I feel more A, resentful, or B, frightened. I feel A, like I can't get any traction to move forward, or B, like I'm walking on eggshells and I don't want to upset my sweetheart. The A answers imply that you feel more like the chained dog, imprisoned with no ability to sniff out all the choices available. The B answers offer you clues that you need a fence to help you focus on what's important to you. If you want to be married for a long time, chances are that you will have moments where there is a fence issue. Identifying who is the lunging dog and where boundaries need to be fenced in and distractions fenced out will help you with the longevity of your relationship. Stay tuned. Next time we'll talk about how to avoid being a schmuck when you set boundaries and instead be kind and gracious. I'll see you then. If you're enjoying this class, you might want to check out the other classes on my website. They all involve habits for your happily ever after. The link's right below.